going to show you how to make a new version of an old-fashioned roller shade. I'm measuring the width of the window. It's 35 1/4, and the length is 35 1/4. I cut this board at 35 1/8 of an inch instead of 35 1/4. We need to have a little bit of room for movement, and we're going to cover the board with fabric to give it a finished appearance on the back. I'm measuring the bottom dowel where the fabric will be wrapped around at 35 1/8 also. We're going to cut this off. That way it can move up and down inside that window. If it's too tight when you're rolling it up and down, it'll snag up on the sides of the walls. So I've made my mark on my dowel. So I have 2 little boards on either side. I'm pinching those with my hand, and I will cut this right here. This will hold the dowel in place. It will keep it from rolling. It'll make a much cleaner cut. I cut these little circles out there about a 1/2 inch larger all the way around the diameter of the dowel. And so we want to cover this with the same fabric as the shade, the outer shade. So I'm gluing that top on, and I'm going to cut all the way around. Now that we have it cut, we're going to lie all of these little wedges down all the way around. This way the dowel won't show, it'll have it's like a finishing touch. And we'll do both sides. So the mounting board needs to be wrapped with the lining fabric. Again, it creates another finished element to a roller shade. Making lines, I'm cutting, gonna wrap, gonna hot glue it, and put in our eye rings. So I've glued the end and pushed that down. So on the side of the board, I'm putting a little glue, and I'm pulling that flat. You can see where it miters. It gives us that angle right here and right here. And so I'm gonna put some glue on here, fold it in, some glue right here, and fold that in. Pull it real tight on that board. And then we'll do the same on this side. Wrap that all around. And we'll do this on both sides. There we go. So this is the underside of the mounting board. In order to loop the cording around the fabric, we have to have an eye hook on the back side. We'll show you how that works a little bit. But we're going to come in 4 inches on both sides, and we're going to make a pilot hole with a screw, and then we're going to put an eye hook in, and that'll be part of the mechanism of the shade. I'm just using a little drywall screw to make a pilot hole for my eye hook. Let's get this in here. So pilot hole's much easier, much better with a drywall screw. I put something in there, and I twist it in tight. And again, we'll have this on both ends. So I've got this lining lined up on this line right here. This is that first line, 1 inch in. So we'll fold that. I'm going to pin that all the way across. So here we go, we're going to double roll it, the double hem. About 1 inch, and we're going to machine stitch across this. And this is something you can do without a sewing machine, but it's very helpful to have one. And we're going to do this all the way down. So I've got one side done, we're getting ready to do the other. We have the two 1-inch lines because it's a double fold hem. So we only want a single fold on the lining fabric. And so we're bringing that in to the first 1-inch line. So this is 35 3/4 it will be total. So I'm getting it here, I'm folding it, and I'm going to cut along here. So I'm rolling up the first part of the hem to put the dowel in for the roller part of the shade. So this is where my hem is going to begin. It will go all the way across this little, it's about a 1/2 inch fold to start this hem. So I'll roll this up. Of course, I'll do this all the way across, and I'll make my marks all the way across, you'll see. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, make it really tight, and I'm going to go ahead and put a pin where I need to pin the edge of that hem. And I'm going to measure that. After I take this out, measure all the way across. I'm going to fold my hem beginnings, and then I'm going to refold it once I make a mark all the way across. The edge of where my new hem is supposed to go is at about 3.5 inches. All this will be folded over. I'll make marks with pins. All the way down both sides. And this 1/2 inch fold will come right to where that is, all the way across. And this is where my dowel will go. So we're getting this hem in right at the very edge. Slip that dowel in all the way across. Make sure you double back and back stitch on the ends. And as soon as it's done, we'll get that dowel in there. This fits really tight, and that's the goal. Of course, the ends are thicker than the center part. And I usually pull it out a little bit down at the other end because this fabric wants to turn under. And of course, remember I cut the dowel about 1/8 of an inch shorter than the width of the shade. Anyway, there we go. We're all set on that. Let's flip it over, see if it's something or nothing. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm steaming this. You can use an iron to do this, and on an ironing board. But I have the dowel portion up at the top of the counter here. I'm steaming it down to stretch all this fabric out, so when it's hanging all the way down, it's nice and even. I think something that I need to bring up that's very important is not all windows are plumb and square. Not all fabric is perfectly woven and is straight. So a lot of times it's best to measure it up on the window, have it sit on the windowsill and measure up, and you take a pin or a pencil and measure where that fabric needs to be on the top to attach to this. Because a lot of times, you know, the windows will be a little bit wonky. Then you'll be able to even out the shade where you need it. It should sit on the bottom of that windowsill. So I have to make 2 tabs for the D-rings that are part of the mechanism that makes the roller shade move up and down. So these are our D-rings, and they need to be 3/4 of an inch wide. I'm rolling in a single hem width. I'm going to make these about 5.5 inches long each. So there's 5.5 and 11. That gives us 2 of them. Cut that in half once it's sewn. So I'm going to do kind of like what I did when I was working on the other part. So you could see where that will be. This is the outside, so that's 3/4 of an inch. You'll see what I'm doing in a moment. Here's 3/4 of an inch right here. And right here is my last spot. We'll cut in here. That will be 3/4 of an inch. You'll see what I'm doing. It's just like magic. Very slow magic. Here we go. I'm going to top stitch this on either side, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And I'll show you how we attach it to the board. My eye-rings on the back side of the mounting board are 4 inches out. We have to put the center of the D-ring and tab 4 inches out. Take a mark and have that come in about 1 inch from the very edge. Center it with your mark. And let's see if we can staple this. I'm going to have to hammer that in. It didn't go very deep because this is such heavy fabric. There we go. And I'll do the other one. I usually put my screw in prior to mounting it up in the window. It's a little bit easier having that screw ready to go when you're lifting it up over your head. A cotton cord, it's kind of decorative. It looks old-fashioned. It's similar to those strings in those old sash windows where they had the weights on the bottom. And so you'll see that I'm going to drop this down. I won't go all the way, but I'm going to go inside this loop. And inside this loop, and it will be attached here. I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. Kind of tight quarters in the sink zone. Get it up in there. Make 3 knots. Wrap it back around, run it through the D-ring. Let's see, she just wanted this halfway down. So let's go like this, maybe a little bit further down. Line it up so it looks even. And let's go ahead and anchor it. Tie it off, and we'll cut it.